Are you one of the nonprofit women leaders who is in the 92% category? Because that's how many women leaders in nonprofits in Canada report that they are struggling with burnout. Are you in that 92%? Because if you are, stay tuned because I'm going to give you 2 strategies to get out of that state. Hey, my dear, I am leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and I help women leaders enjoy impactful leadership. And if you're on the edge of burnout, you certainly are not enjoying leadership. But here's the problem: far too many women think that they visit that place, survival mode, stuck in burnout, whatever it is, rather than stay there. And what happens is, I just have to get through this time. I just have to get through this next busy period. Just get me through this next meeting. And what you often fail to recognize, and I certainly did when I was in leadership roles, was how entrenched I was in survival mode, how long I'd been on the edge of burnout, how close I was to falling apart on a consistent basis. It wasn't just today and tomorrow and the next day, it was next month and next year. And when I looked back, I'd been stuck in survival mode for years. And it's no wonder during those years, I burned out more than once. So here's the challenge for you. I want you to think about how often you are afraid of losing it, afraid of dropping the ball, afraid of messing up, afraid of falling apart, fearing your day, worried that something's going to go wrong. How often are you in that place? Here's the thing. In this week's podcast, I talk about getting out of survival mode, and I talk about a continuum from surviving to thriving. And I've got the link in the notes if you want to go listen to it. And in that podcast and in the link in the notes down below, I give you a tool to measure where you're at on the surviving to thriving continuum. If you're going to get out of survival mode, if you're going to get away from the edge of burnout, you need to do 2 things. The first one is to figure out how bad it is. How entrenched are you in that place where you're barely getting through your days? Where you get up in the morning and you just pray to get through this meeting or this next busy time or this tough conversation or this COVID or project or opening this program, whatever it is. How often are you waking up in the morning thinking, "Oh my God, I just have to get through this day"? If that's like today and tomorrow, and then you look backwards and you're like every day, you're probably there in survival mode. How often do you get home at the end of the day, or maybe even before the end of the day, and you're drained already? Like you've got nothing left to give. You're exhausted. You are worn out. You are just kind of hanging on by a thread. How often is that happening for you? Is it every day? How often or how bad are you at sort of keeping your composure? Do you find that you're losing it with people at work or maybe the people at home? I was talking to a client the other day and she said, "I think I keep it all together at work, but boy, my family's getting it." And I said, let me challenge you on that. Do you think that your team doesn't recognize that you're off? And she goes, "You're actually right. I'm sure they know. Like they feel it." She said, "I put on this sort of, the face. It's like everything's all good. I got it under control. Don't, mess up anything and don't rock the boat." And it's like this persona or this shield or something that we pull up and it gives off these vibes to the people around us. That's often what's happening because we're afraid we're going to yell, we are going to cry, we are going to fall apart completely. And when you're there, really, like you're just feeling like you're on the edge of that precipice where you're going to like fall any minute. That's survival mode. How often are you there? So again, the first step to getting out is recognizing how entrenched you are. If you pop down below, there's a link to the guide sheet that you can measure, or you can head on over to the podcast, listen to the whole podcast where I go deeper into the 3 stages of surviving, thriving, and then where often we are is in the middle, which is just coping or settling. And sometimes we've been sort of in that place where, yeah, it's okay, but it's not great. It's not horrible for far too long as well. So grab that. So the first stage is to recognize where you're at. The second thing you need to do is make a conscious decision to change that. If you aren't consciously choosing to get out of survival mode, to not be one of that 92% of women leaders who burn out, if you're not consciously deciding that, you're not going to change your world. You're not going to change the world for the people around you and how they experience you as a leader. So you need to kind of sit down and go, whoa, this is where I'm at. And I'm making a decision. I'm committing to moving out of survival mode, not burning out, and changing things so that I'm thriving and I'm enjoying leadership and I'm giving my best and I'm able to use all my strengths. And I still have energy when I get home at the end of the day for the rest of my life. Because that's where, I mean, we talk about this work-life balance, and I don't think anybody's ever balanced. I think we're constantly balancing, but we're never sort of balancing that home life and that work life if we're falling apart, if we have no energy, if we're bitchy all the time. There's no way that we're enjoying and balancing both parts of those. So if you want to change that, you have to start doing things differently, having a different mindset. One of the different mindsets is, I think one of the things that we do is we're like, oh, I'm stressed. It's like, I can't handle this. And what if this is a stressful moment? Do you hear this shift? I am stressed could go on for days and forever versus this is a stressful moment and I have the tools to deal with it. I will be able to recharge, renew, fix myself after this stressful moment. I have a team to help get through this stressful moment. Those mindset shifts often help. There's a really good video by Kelly McGonigal, a TED Talk called How to Make Stress Your Friend, I think it's called. And she really talks about how physically our mindset changes what stress does to our body. And so mindset is one of the big ones. Uh, the other thing, I'm working right now in the training library. If you are in the training library, it's not in there yet. The training library is my membership site for women leaders, and I offer courses to help you enjoy impactful leadership, be the best leader you can be, but also enjoy it and enjoy life. And so I'm working right now on a course called Wellness at Work, not after work, but at work. Because I think if you want to get out of survival mode, if you want to get away from the edge of burning out, you have to take steps throughout your day. I call them micro moments. I did a micro moment a minute ago. I got up in between meetings and calls and I was walking down the hallway to go to the washroom and I just put my arms out in the doorways and stretched, opened up my chest. You know how your shoulders get so tight after a day and we have neck problems and headaches? That's because we never take moments throughout our day to stretch for a second. We sit all day, especially now with doing this virtual work. We sit all day in this stiff little box and then we wonder why our bodies ache. It's because we've never stretched it. Those are micro moments, just taking that micro moment to stretch, the micro moment to have a drink of water. Those are the things that we're talking about that are going to help you stave off, is that the right terminology? Burnout. So that's what I want you to think about is how deeply entrenched am I in burnout? And then the second one is make a commitment, make a conscious decision to get out of burnout. Because if you're staying in burnout, the impact on your team is incredible. They feel it, they know it. As soon as everybody sort of comes into the room, like, oh, don't go near her, like, stay away from her. She's not one you want to talk to. And what we hear is that it also creates that toxic work culture. So the more you're burning out, the more you're falling apart, the more you're on the edge of being a disaster, the more your team is. And that, impacts the whole culture of your team. It impacts your clients. It impacts what happens, the work you're doing. So if you're not taking care of yourself, it's just like, put your own oxygen mask on first, or you have to take care of your kids. Because if you're not, the impact just filters out. It's like those ripples when you drop a pebble into the water and everybody starts to sort of fall off as well. So do that work. Head on over and grab the guide sheet. Figure out where you land on the surviving to thriving continuum. And then if you're closer to survival mode or entrenched in survival mode or ready to burn out, make that conscious decision to change that and then start figuring out what it is you're going to do. If you want some help with that, you might be interested in the training library. Inside the training library, I have ongoing webinars and courses to help you grow. And I know that many women leading in nonprofits would love to have a coach or a mentor or a guide. I mean, you often feel so alone and isolated. Inside the training library, you get affordable, easy, accessible access to all of the courses. There's courses, ongoing webinars, and then access to me as well. So that when you hit those inevitable bumps, which we always do in leadership, you know exactly where to go to get the support and the direction and the guidance and the mentoring you need. So if you're interested in that, head on over to kathyarcher.com/library and you will find out all the information. And if you want to watch the podcast, again, the link is below, or listen to the podcast where I talk about the surviving to thriving continuum. You can go to kathyarcher.com/podcast and you can find all of the episodes there, or just search surviving to thriving on your favorite podcast player and you will find it. Do this work. Figure out how bad you are entrenched in survival mode. Make a commitment to get out. And that, my dear, is going to move you from surviving to thriving in both your leadership and your life. Go make the rest of your day awesome, my dear.